right. It looks like we've settled.
Yeah,
What do you reckon?
I think we have.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Condom of Life podcast, something that's been randomly put together due to a series of events in our life. And I've got Wahid Rahman here. I'm Sean Khan. Really looking forward to this. This is, pretty cool for us to be able to get together and just absolutely talk about anything under the sun.
It's been a long time coming, right?
It has.
So for us, it's been a journey to, to get here. And I guess, Sean, I wanted to ask, how did this idea come about?
Well, I still remember I was 16. Me and my cousin were in the presence of my father.
Yeah.
And, he just decided to say one day, or wanted to say, that, Sean, I don't want you to live a life of condemnation. And as a 16-year-old boy, to understand what's going on there, it took a while. But anyways, he decided to say, Sean, I don't want you to condom your life. And that stuck with us forever.
But he meant to say condemned, right?
Condemned. But now it just means so many different things.
Yeah, it does.
We're almost like...
It makes sense.
Yeah, we're middle-aged Southeast Asian men trying to figure out our lives. We're, married with kids and trying to navigate through a corporate career and also social norms and cultural and religious expectations. And here we are today. We can talk about all the stuff that's gone right and all the stuff that's sort of gone wrong.
So I guess if we had to summarize, the purpose of this podcast, it is a informal and a safe place for us to talk about, current issues and mainly around, Southeast Asian men. And the way that we brought up and the issues that we've had to deal with now, right? So is that kind of the purpose of this podcast? Is that what you see it being in the future? Is that what you see it now?
That's right. I think in our culture, we've found it really hard to open up. And we've probably been brought up to, be extremely resilient and handle all the day-to-day issues that come our way. But I think being able to open up about how we truly feel about dealing with a lot of those day-to-day issues, I think that, is hard. It's hard and not really accepted, As a male or female in our community, you're just expected to just get on with it and not really look at the purpose of life, but more get in there and sort of start ticking the checklist of life. So I think that's where we are now. And
the funny story about the Freudian slip of condom instead of condemn, right? it seems that we definitely like a bit of our banter to kind of lighten the mood of life generally. So humor is a very important
100%.
Thing for us generally in our life and also as part of this podcast.
That's right. And I think being able to sort of look at the funny side to any situation is a way for us to, be able to cope with things, And I think, now that we're fathers and we tell our cringy jokes that our kids have to deal with, I think there's so much for us to be able to understand from the next generation and be able to hopefully pass down. So I think this is the purpose of this podcast, but it's an absolute random idea where we're just all getting together to just talk about stuff. Who knows?
Just to talk about stuff.
Let's see where it takes us.
Just where it takes us, right?
We can talk about anything. So, look, it's an open forum.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Anything you want to sort of delve into?
Yeah. And I mean, we've got to be, mindful, of people's time. So it's not. We want it to be frequent, right? We want it to be frequent, and we want it to be a safe place, and not non-judgmental, and all for the sake of learning, sharing knowledge. So there are things that we would say, which we should also validate.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we want to improve ourselves.
That's right.
I would like to improve myself.
100%.
Like how, and I guess, Sean, the condom of life, right? Why a condom? I know it came from the word condemned, and your father, he said it accidentally, but when we thought about this a couple of years ago, when you said this story, like, that actually applies to life.
It does.
And so what do you see as this metaphor of a condom?
It's constantly being blocked.
Yeah.
And I think growing up, you think the world is a type of way, and it's not.
Yeah.
And you realize very quickly that you have your roles, you have your responsibilities, and once you start your own life with your wife and kids, and et cetera, you just realize that who you were and who you want to be is they're two very different things. And I think being able to go back to your roots and really sort of tap into that person you were and what you like is important, because if you don't, then you just find yourself it's almost autopilot.
And as we progress through this podcast, we would obviously talk about our own upbringings, which would be critical for us to understand and our current situations. I guess that's an important topic to kind of delve into. And these topics about our childhood, I mean, they can go on for ages, right? But if you had to summarize very quickly, like, your, even how you got to the country, like you were born here, right?
Yeah.
You were born here. And I guess a quick, summary of kind of what you do to set ourselves up to understand, and to talk with others.
No, that's right. I was born here. Mum and dad, they lived in the eastern suburbs at that time, in the sort of mid-'80s, and I think a lot of Bangladeshis did at that time. I think for our parents, it was that generation of coming to Australia to, take advantage of the land of opportunity, almost build generational wealth, and hopefully create, sort of family and communities that were very much involved in academia, in social events, in assimilating with Australian culture. However, I felt for myself, I was almost on the other side of the extreme. I lived I grew up in the Southern Shire, so there are a lot of Anglo-Saxon community, and I was only probably one of two Southeast Asian people in the school. So after a while, you very much start to adopt whatever you see around you, and you forget where you're from and things like that. But I felt that once I was growing up as a teenager, started to ask more questions about where I'm from, and then very much started to research and travel with my parents, and then start to realize that my identity is, my parents are from Bangladesh, and we share some wonderful values, and we have excellent I believe, family bonding and things like that. So now being able to, almost sort of carry that on with my kids, that's been really helpful. I don't know how you found it growing up. Where did you grow up?
So it's kind of, obviously I was born in Australia too. Yeah. Parents are Bangladeshi, and just for, people, Sean is actually married to my sister. So he's my brother-in-law. So we go a long way back, and we'll talk about our story of, our friendship and our bond eventually, but, not right now. But, growing up, I had very opposite experience to you. Like, I grew up in East Lakes and Botany. And in East Lakes especially, the first set of Bangladeshi migrants came there. So there was a lot of ethnic people, Turkish, Greek, Bangladeshi, Pakistanis, and there were the Anglo-Saxons going to school at, random boys. So you saw a lot of multiculturalism. So you tried to kind of assimilate, but the culture and the roots of the culture is quite strong because we are in that community and seeing each other and going to school together. So you give an example of...
How was that, by the way?
Oh,
day in, day out, seeing that around you.
They did a census when I left school of how many Bangladeshis were in the school. Out of 1,200 boys, they found that there were 180 Bangladeshis.
Wow.
That's a lot of the population.
That's right.
At school population, right?
Yeah.
And it's a it's a representation of the area around it. So it was interesting. I got to obviously learn that type of Bangla, but that kind of fell through after like high school. It was so strong in high school, and then afterwards you kind of grow up and you're out in this world where it's no longer in the school environment, no longer in the East Lakes or Eastern suburbs. You're starting to see more and more people.
Did you almost run away from it? Because
Yeah.
I sort of did.
Yep.
They say that you never cross the bridge when you live in the Shire, but I crossed it.
Yep.
So what happened for you? Like,
Oh, well, in university, like the identity of being Bangladeshi Australian, it really didn't matter. Like that was just now about meeting different types of people, and I wanted to. Like you said, like you just said, why did you cross that bridge? Why did you want to cross the bridge?
yeah, for me, I think it was almost developing this new identity, this who I wanted to be.
Yep.
And, once you are a pre-adult or, you're going into study tertiary education and whatever it is, whatever your endeavours are, I think you have to have a goal. And for me, it was to go and see the world and see what else is out there. And so maybe because I didn't have that exposure going to the city and sort of seeing that hustle and bustle, it got me out there and talking to people.
And I think that, for you and I at least, and the people that, are close to us, and also the people that are watching this, they would have similar shared experiences. And that's, I think that's why, creating this podcast and even talking about it, a bit about ourselves is to, I think that others would have had similar experiences. We wouldn't be the only one.
Most definitely.
And it was a confusing time.
Oh, yeah.
And, if anything that we can learn from our lives and also the lives of others collectively is also to help the next generation get better and to address any of these issues so they don't encounter it or they learn from our mistakes, which our parents really couldn't do that well because they were so fixated on just working.
Yeah, that's right. And I think any exposure we had with the other communities, kids that were our age, was through dawats or invitations to homes, different events. And there's a very limited amount of time for you to bond with anyone else out there. So I think it was very much a bit of a haphazard way of finding out what the world's about. But now that we're here, I guess I look back and I'm very fortunate to have grown up the way I did because I think I got to see how, the Western world operates. I mean, I know that sounds a bit silly because I was born here, but I wasn't really exposed to our community till maybe a little bit later on as I grew up. And I understood that there's a lot more out there and I wanted to be closer to my culture. That's why I think now I live on the other side of Sydney, sort of the northwest, and I embrace all these. It's like a melting pot of cultures, so I think that's been really good. Yeah. And so look, I guess with your journey so far, if you sort of had to go back and maybe speak to the old Wahid, the 19-year-old one, what advice would you have for him? Heavy question.
Yeah, so that is a heavy question, right? So, anything that I learned, I think, is that I'm continuing to still learn. The same time, I would say to myself at 19, like if you do have a problem, try and seek some advice, because at that age you're trying to do as much of it as you can on your own. That was the expectation of the parents. You just go figure this out because that parent didn't know anything about the Australian way of life or even the corporate world. They had no idea. Yep. They had no idea about the education system, anything. So you're trying to navigate through all of this, and the generations above us, they were busy trying to succeed, and they didn't have or didn't understand that they should also be giving advice. Mm-hmm. So at 19, what I would say to myself is, man, if you got a problem, do ask not just your parents, but ask others that have done it before you, and see what their advice is, and get multiple opinions, because you meet, example, you and I will definitely have a different opinion, but you get that type of advice as a 19-year-old, you can then make a pretty informed decision. And the other thing at 19, and I guess this is actually what it's about in terms of our, our ideology, is how do we become better men?
That's right.
So at 19, I would have said to myself, focus on yourself, get healthy, get stronger, learn to live on your own, learn to survive on your own, and then seek a relationship, because you'll be better off.
Yeah.
Like, you should develop yourself. You should know yourself, travel the world by yourself or with some friends. And don't be so attached to like, these friends, if I don't hang out with them, I'm going to lose them. Right. Nah, man, a real friend, no matter where you are, and I'm in Melbourne, by the way, so I'm located in Melbourne. I moved to Melbourne recently. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm still connected to Sydney as much as I was when I was living here. Yeah. Friends you don't lose. At 19, people come and go.
That's right.
You can still meet a friend that you knew at 19, and you can catch up with them, but you can't take it as these things aren't going to change. Yeah. You should expect change.
For me, I think I needed to work on this idea that I needed to people please. I think in our community, people pleasing is such a big issue, and it stems from seeking validation from our elders and people around us. But I believe the way it translates into the workplace, for example, is that we don't communicate as well with our colleagues or our stakeholders and people that we're dealing with. We're not as open and as transparent as we should be, often because we are afraid to, face confrontation. So I think now that I look back, I'd tell my older self that, Sean, back yourself, learn to be upfront and honest with your communication, and it will make your life easier because you'll have less anxiety, no more tiptoeing, and it's very much out there. Everyone knows where you stand. That would be my advice to myself, I think.
But all of that, you still require to know yourself.
Oh, 100%.
You need to spend time understanding yourself and developing yourself, because what we got taught younger is full authority, from the parents, full obedience from them. Mm-hmm. So questioning them would come out with, dire consequences for us. Oh, why?
How dare you challenge me?
Yeah, why do I need to eat this? Right. Well, what are you saying?
Yeah, exactly.
No. There was
and we'd get they'd speak about the kids in Rwanda,
That's
in
right.
Somalia, and look, as much as you knew that people were suffering, at that time it was only you that was suffering at the table, having to hear that.
So that's right. So so all of a sudden you're like, well, none of this kind of matters what the community thinks. Why do they care so much? And that's all their little bubble was. Yeah. That's kind of their entire condom. They're stuck in that layer.
That's right. And I can't blame them, because that was all they knew. That was all they were probably trying to really hold on to, because they hopefully wanted us to marry someone who would understand us and our culture and religion, etc., etc. So they did everything possible to make sure that we had the interaction, right? So I think they did their part. And we almost went out to the world and realized, hold on, there's things that we want to be sort of involved in, and things that we want to do, and sort of start to branch out and do pretty much do us. But
and isn't that why we're here?
Yeah, that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. Like, these are just small snippets of our stories to kind of understand, why we're doing this. And again, we hope to share that whatever we've kind of learned, it's just an open dialogue where people can hear our stories.
That's right.
And go, okay, you know what, I could do things a bit differently, because look, we're nearing our 40s. Yeah. We've been born and raised here. Yeah. We have children who are now the second generation who are encountering these problems.
That's right.
And there are young men who are going to get married in the future, our own relatives that, should get some guidance or understanding or a dialogue where, we are taught in a particular way that we must finish high school, educated, go to university, get married, have children, buy a house, buy all of this.
Yeah.
And when that, checklist of life, as you said, Sean, that checklist of life is done, what is that's not the purpose of a guy's life, to obtain those materialistic things. That can happen, but you should also understand yourself so you be a better person and a better father and better person generally.
I agree. And I think I feel, it comes from a mismatch of expectations. As a Bangladeshi, when you are getting married, there's a certain expectation from parents, certain expectation from yourself and your partner. And, sometimes it starts with us men. I've seen that there's a lot of men out there that tend to have issues, mummy issues, daddy issues, almost, stuff that rehabilitates themselves when they're having arguments with their partner. They can't comprehend certain things because they're so, they're latched onto how their parents thought and what their parents expect of them, and almost having to let go of that to develop new sort of thoughts and understanding. I think, that comes from experience. It's not something that, will sort of happen overnight. I think people mature. And so I think for us, we've probably got to a point where we're letting go. We're letting go of all the stuff that could, hold us back in terms of relationships, this and that. And now we're sort of getting to a point where we're like, you know what, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, there's a lot of things we have to do and bear, and some things we have to let go.
And I guess it's our generation that will break that cycle. So, our parents came from Bangladesh to here. We were born here. So whatever they knew how to raise children or to deal with, other people or their differences of opinions, we are the generation that if we don't break that cycle, then the next generation gets impacted. Yeah. Because we can't take that old school mentality. Yep. Because culture is not, it is important, but that should not be a compromise for moving forward in this life. In this country or in our relationships. Like, simple thing is like, as a Bangladeshi, get married to another, culture. Oh, man, 20 years ago, Sean, was that acceptable?
No way.
And now what do you think?
They made movies about it, many movies.
Many movies.
Many Bollywood films.
Many Bollywood films.
Now it's just the norm, isn't it?
Yeah. Now it's the norm. Now it's like, hey, there's a lot of inclusiveness.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you don't need to. And the funny thing is that our parents have gotten to that stage, and it's good because their grandchildren benefit. But we're the generation that has to highlight this.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I talk about Bollywood films. Like, what's your favorite Bollywood film? What is your all-time favorite? Because we brown people, we love a good love story.
We do.
We do.
Maybe something I didn't want to admit growing up.
Yeah.
But look, for some reason, I'm a big fan of that movie Andaz Apna Apna.
Yes. Okay.
It's a now you watch it and you're like, oh, this is so silly, but it was a good comedy film. I think Amir Khan and Salman Khan, they're an awesome duo. And Karishma Kapoor and I think Ravina Tandon.
Yes. It was on Netflix.
It was a fantastic cast, and it was just great. Like when you're a kid watching that, it was funny, and so that was probably my favorite. Pretty silly, I know, but apart from that, I think all the classics.
All the classics. Shah Rukh Khan, DDLJ.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually kind of what motivated me to go see Switzerland.
Okay.
Man, love DDLJ.
Yeah.
And that is like it's still playing in movies.
Yeah, you love your Bollywood films. Were you the guy that collected the CDs and the cassettes and all that back in the day? Or?
Look, I do watch Bollywood films. I watch the commercial films. I do. Whether I like it or not, my only problem with it is, man, sometimes a 3.5 hour movies are unnecessary.
100%.
It's too much.
I fall asleep a couple times.
And how much can you really talk about like love in different ways? Like this married, that married, this father's upset. It's just too much.
You know what I can't deal with more and more? I think about the fact that they break out into music and song and dance.
I can't handle that.
How the hell would that pass?
They can't handle that.
Today's day and age.
They can't handle that. Have you watched Fighter?
Just sort of, unleashing a TikTok dance every time I fall
That's what happened. Have you watched Fighter? So throughout the movie,
I have not.
there's only one point of a song where it kind of makes sense because he's gone into a dreamland. But what happens is that after the movie ends, the credits always just have basically a video clip.
But that's a Top Gun copy, isn't it? Was it a copy?
I think it's inspired by Top Gun.
Okay.
Inspired by Top Gun to push the nationalistic messages. That it is, but but who doesn't love planes?
Geopolitics is an area we will get into.
We'll cover. There's too much to talk about here.
Yeah, true.
This is our first episode.
100%. Even though thoughts and prayers with our Palestinian brothers and sisters, they're going through a tough time right now, and we just have to remain really strong and vigilant, and hopefully steadfast in our prayer for them. But look, I think there's going to be a lot of different things covered in this podcast. Good stuff, bad stuff, funny stuff. I think, we're gonna sort of hopefully enjoy this. Now, look, I guess with your current sort of lifestyle in Melbourne, is Melbourne better than Sydney?
It's livable because the cost of living is a bit cheaper. So when you have a bit of pocket money...
Sounds sexy.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about like the food, the people.
I love the street food in Sydney. People are much nicer in Melbourne. That I see. And the area that I live in, 90% is like desi. So they kind of keep to themselves. Only problem that I have with where I live in Melbourne is that most of the drivers are pretty terrible.
Is that a direct correlation between desi and...
We'll have to explore this. Can someone fact check that, please?
We need to edit this part out.
We need to edit this part. Fact check. Fact check.
There'll be lots of racial discrimination on this show. No, joking.
No. We have to edit this one out. You know what? Let's rewind it back 5 minutes.
Brown people being racist. Ridiculous. But do you know what, though? I feel like our culture is pretty racist.
Yeah.
We're just as bad.
We're just as bad. We really are.
We act like we're not.
Come on, for thousands of years, we've been harping on about, the tone of your skin color.
100%. That's probably why we love Rush Hour so much.
Oh, I watched it. We watched it the other day.
Yeah, but Chris Tucker, some of the stuff he said, you wouldn't get away with that now.
No
way.
You would not get away with it. You would not. And, I mean, it's good because we shouldn't stereotype, and our children pick that up. So we picked all of that up from our parents. Yeah. It was normal. But now with inclusiveness, that's not even an issue. Like,
that's right.
So, you wonder why, like, people get judged for their race or religion. It still happens, but we're moving towards inclusiveness, and it's a huge contradiction in some parts of the world. They're just not inclusive.
Yeah.
And, if you're not inclusive, you come up with issues around oppression and discrimination. We shouldn't. And that's the point of all of this, that all of those are limitations to us being more free and to be better people.
When do you think people start to become racist? Is it during the formative years of their lives that they start to notice the way people are behaving towards others? Like, is that what it is? Or, you're not born racist. Kids are innocent. Kids don't even think about colour and everything else, right?
It takes just one experience. And one experience you can kind of forgive. But if it happens multiple times, then, and did you encounter this at high school?
I did.
So that's your first experience.
That's right.
And that stays with you.
My last experience was the Cronulla riots. That was a very interesting few days. Just watching raging alcoholics come from different suburbs to cause havoc.
What a time that was.
What a strange time.
What a time. You forget that even happens.
Oh, man.
You just don't see that in Australia. You see it in overseas because there's big ghettos. Yep. Like in Paris, just 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
That riots after that teenager was killed.
Yeah.
But you don't see. But you don't see that in places like this. And that happened. I forgot about that. That was a while ago. How long?
Yeah. Cronulla Riots? What, 2005, I think? I think 2005, yeah. So that was, we're talking 19 years ago.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So I guess, Sean, like, good conversation that we've had. I guess when we think about this, podcast and, what the next couple of episodes looks like, I guess what do you see this as being? Is this something that, we would definitely want to do more frequently, but also at the same time, what is your vision for this?
I don't want to take it too seriously, and what I mean by that is, this is not a, scripted, chance for us to just cover all these different topics. No, that's not what it is. I think it's more sort of understanding each other, one-on-one, man. One-on-one.
It's completely unscripted.
Yeah, and I can't even say it's between us. The whole world is seeing.
It's complete. So we're gonna have a YouTube channel. So it'll be Condom
in
of Life.
advance, I apologize to all my family members for anything stupid I say, but I mean it.
And we could hardly edit this out.
Yeah,
right?
we could.
Because this is just our first recording, and we'll keep this first recording forever.
Be nice.
Be nice. This is for our purposes.
Don't write crappy comments. Don't say like we're old as and
I reckon we're pretty cool.
I think we are.
Think about it, man. Like
Far out.
our parents were not cool. No. They weren't on our technology, man. But we're on our children's technology. We know what TikTok is.
To pick us up wearing a salwar kameez.
Yeah.
Full Indian attire.
Exactly.
Bangladeshi attire, and it was just embarrassing.
I know who Mr. Beast is. I know he makes chocolate. Mr. Beast. But my parents would not have known who Tupac was. Right, so we know their stuff, but they think that they know more. I reckon we're cool.
I think so.
Look at my shirt.
Yeah.
Look at our clothes.
I love waffles.
Yeah, I love waffles. It's a bit hard to eat in the morning. Yeah. I just come to understand this morning that, I was trying to avoid the sweet food in the morning. It was too much.
The diabetes.
Diabetes.
Hasn't set in just yet.
Yeah. Oh, and we'll talk about health. Health is a big part of this.
Health is a massive part.
We're always.
We're all on a journey to become, to strengthen ourselves.
Spiritually, mentally, physically, and it's always a journey. So just because we talk about it doesn't mean that you'll see an 8-pack next week.
Nope.
It is simple things, right? Simple things to just help us. And we're learning at the same time. So this is about us learning with people that are watching and us sharing some opinions. Because, man, how much of what you see is really true?
I wouldn't even call them opinions. I'll call them observations. Opinions might get me in trouble.
Okay, observations, yes.
You know what I mean?
Because opinion, there's some sort of bias, right? Observation is just a fact.
Most definitely.
So we should also fact check some stuff. So throughout where we chat, we'll be like, fact check.
100%. But yeah, I think we can probably wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we did well. Our first episode, this will always be kept for us.
Proper noob session.
I mean, you might not even see this for the next episode because we might change, have a review of it and see what we do.
We might not. I think we'll be back.
Oh, we'll be back.
We'll be back.
Till
next time.
We'll be back.
Till next time. Good to chat, man.
It is good to chat.
Good game.